Righty, and we're underway. So welcome everyone, good evening. I'm just going to be letting people through as I do my welcome, so please just bear with me. I do look to the side and pause. Okay. Yeah, good evening everyone, and welcome to this very special cookbook launch event for In Praise of Veg with Alice Zaslavsky. My name's Bianca, and I'll be your Avid Reader host for this evening. It is my pleasure to welcome you all. So firstly, if you haven't attended an online event with Avid Reader before, I'll just briefly reiterate a couple of things that were sent on email with the link. So there is a chat function built into Zoom that you can use to communicate directly with your host, myself. And when we call for audience questions, this is where you can type them so that I can relay them to Alice. Please feel free to send through your questions at any time. One important note I'll pass on shortly in that chat is where you can purchase, a link to where you can purchase your copy of In Praise of Veg. And for the next 24 hours, you can use the code EVENT, that's just EVENT, and receive 10% off any books you order online with Avid Reader. And we're getting the reminders today that everyone being prepared for their Christmas postage. For the tech side of things, because everyone's computer or device will have different settings, we won't be able to offer technical support. However, you will be muted for the duration of the conversation, and at the end, we'll be able to unmute everyone so you can join us in thanking our special guests this evening. So to kick off the event this evening, I'll officially start with an acknowledgement of country. So please join me from wherever you may be to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land. From where I call home, Meanjin or Brisbane, I pay respect to the Yagara and Turrbal people and to all elders past, present and emerging. In the theme of NAIDOC 2020, I acknowledge that this land has always been and will always be a place of creativity, community and rich storytelling and rich cooking, as we're about to witness. I'd like to introduce you to our special guest this evening. Alice Zaslavsky is a food literacy advocate, resident culinary correspondent for the ABC News, Breakfast and ABC Radio, and creator of, gosh, you're giving me the tongue twisters tonight, Alice. We've got Phenomenon, a free digital toolbox helping teachers slip even more serves of fresh food into every subject. When she's not on stage hosting international culinary talent or on screen showing Australians how to find every shortcut to delicious food, she's at home testing recipes and sharing insights online as at Alice in Frames. This is her second book. And joining Alice this evening is Jason Reed, who is an ex-bookseller at the famous Riverbend Books, which we all love in Brisbane, screenwriter, foodie and baker of anything sweet, especially layer cakes. A very warm Avid Reader welcome to Alice and Jason. So thank you. And Jason, I'll pass over to you.
Great, thank you very much. Alice, I'm very excited about cooking this tonight. I don't do a lot of deep frying, but to start off, could you tell me about what you've chosen and why?
I have chosen a dish that is not a baked layer cake, Jason. I'm sorry to disappoint. This is the fuzzy basil cheese stick from In Praise of Veg. I'm going to go to the book and find the page for you, which very handily, have you got a book there yourself?
I certainly do.
Fabulous. So if you go to the dark green bit of the edges of the page, it should be pretty easy for you to find the herb. There we go. See, I just opened to it. What a coincidence. The herb recipe on page 350, 351. And I chose this dish because it is approaching festive season, festive gifting and festive cooking. And I think that this is kind of like a cheesy lollipop. If you are a fan of kataifi prawns, which is the traditional way that this pastry is used, then this is a really great veggie alternative. It just tastes really good. And the basil in it really rounds out the flavour. You can use other herbs too. You know, if you don't have basil, you've only got parsley, that'll work. You could try your hand at some mint perhaps, but
Yeah.
I just think basil has just the right flavor for this recipe. So the first thing we're going to do, because it is a deep fried dish, is we're going to fill our pot to, so my pot is nice and deep, to about the spot where your pastry is going to end. So, you know, about 5 centimeters, 6 centimeters of oil. And I normally would, so this is, I'm at my parents' place, so we're making do, which is perfect because I think it's a very relatable piece of content. But normally I have a jar of frying oil, a big jar, and I just reuse that number of times, as long as it doesn't smell and as long as the color isn't too dark, and I fish out all of the floaties, I can reuse that. So it looks like you're using some, what sort of oil are you using there, Jason?
I've got some rice bran oil.
Awesome, perfect, nice and neutral. So peanut or rice bran, you know, I'd be happy with vegetable or canola. Personally, I just find that a seed oil or a nut oil, or I suppose peanut being a legume, is going to be better for you than the straight up sort of vegetable oil, you know.
Sure.
Yeah, so there we go. Nice.
And storing that oil in between, is there anything special I need to do?
So if you are storing it, you can just store it in the pantry, but just strain it. So use a fine mesh sieve and strain out any floaties, because those floaties will, over time, they'll sort of dissolve, and the flavor of whatever burnt in crumbs are in the bottom of your oil will absorb into the flavor. So, but the color, you know, you can take the color to almost not brown, but like a blonde, and it'll still be fine. So, you know, here we go. So I'm going to add some grapeseed in here as well, because once again, just using what we've got at Mum and Dad's pantry. How are you going? How's the oil content?
I think I might have enough. I'll just do a little measure. Look at how much that looks like.
Just maybe, you know, one good way, if you are doing this along with us, is to use a skewer to dip into the oil and just see at what point that comes out. And, you know, if it comes out at about that point that your cheese size is, then you're pretty good. So I'm just going to keep going with this. Yeah, and that's the reason. So I've actually chosen a smaller pot than you might expect, because then you don't need to use as much oil to get it higher. So just do less of these fuzzy sticks at a time. There we go. That's great.
And I'm guessing that you need to leave a bit of a gap between the top of the oil and the top of the pot.
100%. You definitely don't want to go all the way up to the top. How's that looking for you pot-wise?
Yeah, well, I'm good now.
Awesome. Me too. So, and the other thing is you can rest it so that, you know, you do one side and then the other. It's not going to sit straight up. So I think this is perfect. So that's about 5.5 centimeters that I've done. Now, where are we at with our cheese? I have suggested the duck mozzarella, you know, the hard mozzarella that you get from the shops that's vac packed. So it looks like a duck shape. I've already sliced mine into finger-sized wedges. So Jason is going to be so kind as to be our duck wedge slicer. But meanwhile, I'm going to show you what I mean. There we go. I'll get Nick to zoom in a little bit closer. So that's the sort of thickness that you want for your duck mozza. See that? Pretty thick, finger thick. Yeah. So, and some of them you'll find, because it's a weird shape, it looks like yours isn't a duck. It looks like yours.
No, mine was a block.
A block. So, that's really handy. So I would say just sort of finger-sized rectangle. You know, what would you call them? You'll know exactly the word.
Yeah, they're like a rectangular prism, we could say, if you want to
Very
be
good.
technical.
Cheese rectangular prisms. Rectangular prisms of cheese, please. Exactly. They are definitely delicious. Yeah. As they melt, they will get even more delicious. So looks like you could probably get about 12 rectangles out of your piece of cheese there. Rectangular prisms. Does that look about right to you? So boop, boop, boop. And if you are cooking along, while Jason is slicing, I'm going to come closer to my computer screen and have a look. So hold your cheese up. I'd love to see what sort of cheese you're using, whether you are in fact cooking. Show me your cheese. Great. Wonderful. Great cheese. Ah, I love the enthusiasm. Very good. Megan, and there we go. Fiona, well done. Thank you. All right. So it's looking like we are just about ready. I should say, so once the oil's in, a low to medium heat. You want it to heat up to 180 degrees, but not too fast. You know, you don't want it to be bubbling. 180 degrees is the pretty standard deep frying temperature. It's if you popped a piece of pastry in there, it should take between, say, 15 to 20 seconds to get nice and golden. So, and Jason, as an avid baker, you would know that 180 degrees is a very handy temperature for doing what?
Oh, for baking in the oven, it's like the perfect temperature.
Exactly. So if you think about it, the reason why deep frying is so effective is because it's a direct heat at the same temperature that you get things to go golden in the oven at an indirect heat. So it's much quicker to do, and you still get that golden crust. So cheese is cut, is that correct?
Yes, correct. Ready to go.
Brilliant. And Fiona, did you want to give me one of these ones when your cheese is cut too? Good, fantastic. Let's move right along. So the next thing that we're going to do is pick our basil, which is super simple to do. You've got your bunch of basil. You want to find the bigger leaves for the inside. So these nice big leaves. The smaller leaves we're actually going to deep fry as well as a garnish. So keep hold of them. You'll notice that I've got my basil in a jug of water, because basil, more than any other herb, is very, very delicate. So particularly in Brisbane, actually, I'm sure that as soon as you get basil home, it just goes, So pop it into water. Do consider as well popping a plastic bag over the top and putting it in the fridge door. That's a really good spot, particularly in the tropical climates. I know that in Queensland, you're putting a lot more veg and fruit in the fridge than you are down in the southern states, so in the eastern seaboard. So from that perspective, you know, herbs, things that I would normally say avoid the fridge. For you, fridge, I'm very happy with. Yeah, for a nice, you know, for retaining the integrity of your basil. So just use your fingernail just to snap off the leaves, and you want 12 nice big leaves to go with each of these little cheese cylinders of yours. And if you feel like doing the little baby leaves for now, you're welcome to do that too, because we'll be frying those right after the fuzzy basil cheese sticks come out.
Sure.
Great. All right, show me your picking.
While we're picking
your basil. Yes. Is that a question, Jason? Oh yeah, Megan's showing me.
Oh yes, I was just thinking about. So this is all vegetarian, obviously, with cheese and basil. And your book is all about plant forward. But I did notice there is some meat in there as well. Can you talk about like what's going on there and what you're thinking about?
I'm thinking about all of those people that say they want to eat more vegetables but aren't necessarily ready to go full cold tofu just yet. So, you know, our family would be probably 80% veggie, but we're still garnishing with meat or using, you know, smoked fish as a bit of a flavor enhancer, and certainly cheese as well. So I think the reason why the book is resonating so well with Australian families and, you know, actually all over the world is because there are so many people in that flexitarian, climatarian, reducitarian camp, more and more. You know, I'm sure that you've seen David Attenborough's documentary, most recent one, where there was a segment within it where he was talking about what we can do to help contribute to a shift in thinking, as well as a shift in some of the kind of the downward spiral of our environment. And one of the things that we can do is reduce our consumption of meat. And I think that if I came out and said that was my book, you know, it's all about reducing meat, then people would be like, I don't know if I'm ready to do that. But if you up the veg, you're going to naturally reduce the meat. And I think that that's a really friendly place from which to start, and a really realistic place as well. Relatable. I'm all about the relatable content.
Yeah,
so practical, exactly. So this oil is heating up really nicely. So we better mosey on along. Now, how did you go in Brisbane finding kataifi pastry?
I did find some. I went to a little deli in West End.
Awesome.
I'd never actually used it before.
Great, good.
So
well, I'm sure you'll use it more. Yeah, I'm super excited. There's a dessert. My favorite way to use kataifi pastry when it's not wrapping stuff and deep frying it is the dessert. It's a Greek dessert called galaktoboureko, which is, oh man, it's like a custard slice. And the kataifi pastry is like little shreds of gold, little threads of gold through this delicious slice. So That's really, really great to do. And now that you found it, so what's the deli called for anyone that hasn't found the katayifi?
That's a really good question. I'll come back to you with that once I
do.
Yes.
Great. But in the meantime, I'd love to see if anyone didn't find katayifi pastry, maybe do one of these ones so that I can see. Yay, Fiona. So I'm sure that if Fiona is in my boat, I didn't find katayifi pastry. My usual place where I buy it was closed today, and I thought, I could easily find it at another deli. Couldn't. So I have subbed in phyllo pastry, which katayifi basically is phyllo. It's just really, really thin strips of that same kind of dough. So Fiona, is that what you found? Some phyllo pastry? Give me one of these ones if that's correct. Yes, wonderful. And the same with Meg. It looks like Meg found some phyllo pastry as well. So phyllo is a perfect option. You could go puff. We could see what happens to puff, but probably with puff pastry, because it's got so much fat in it already from the butter, I would bake these. I'd do exactly the same recipe, but bake. So we're going to grab either a few strips of the katayifi pastry. Jason, would you mind holding up the katayifi?
Yes.
Let's go. Okay, so as you can see, it's like a lot of noodles, really thin vermicelli rice noodles. So what you'll find is that you really need less than you think to wrap each of these. So if you could grab maybe 6 to 8 strands of it.
Okay.
And if it doesn't all unsplit quickly, then, life goes on. You can tear at this, and it's very forgiving. That's why I like to use it. And what happens as it deep fries is that you get these lovely crispy, every bit of it is crispy, I suppose. It's a real mouth pleaser, people pleaser. If you like panko breadcrumbs, you will love katayifi pastry. So Jason, show me the strips, just so that we can see how many we've got there.
Am I going for length as well?
Yeah, if you can. So wrap one around. So wrap some of that pastry around one of your cheese sticks, and just make sure that you pretty much can't see the cheese. You can still see the basil. So if you put a piece of basil on each cheese stick and then wrap it around, it should cover it, and you should have just enough to tuck the pastry into itself again as well. So it literally is like threads of for sewing or knitting. It's really so foolproof, this pastry. I'm surprised more people don't use it. Okay, so I would like you to go double. So double that. That would be great.
Not a problem.
This is great. Jason's handy. You're my Adriana Xenides.
That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said.
I love it. And I love that you know that reference too. It's important. Yeah, good. So that's great. Yep.
When we started, Alice, you pointed to opening to the green section, and this book is like super colorful. It's like even like from the outside to the inside, all through. And you yourself obviously appreciate color.
I do.
Can you talk about what color means both aesthetically, but also in terms of nutrition and that kind of thing?
Yeah, definitely. It's something that I talk about a little bit in the book. I try not to harp on, just in case people think it's one of those books about vegetables. But there are a lot of nutritional benefits to the different colors that we use. You can see while I'm sort of, Jason and I are chatting, I'm literally just wrapping a thin slice of this phyllo pastry around the cheese. And that's really enough. That'll fry up well. And then what you do, just while I have you, is I'm just going to skewer this cheese and the phyllo together. So it's just, holding on. It's actually the thing that I do love more about katayifi than phyllo, and you'll see as well, between using it, I do pop a damp paper towel, keeps it from drying out. Is you can't really tuck the katayifi, the phyllo the same way as you can the katayifi, but it should still be okay. So the phytochemicals inside each of the vegetables, depending, so you know about beta carotene in orange veg, the anthocyanin in purple vegetables, for example, and each of those sets of phytochemicals have been found to be really beneficial. So I like to think of them a little bit like Lego blocks. So, the more of these foods that you consume, the more that you are building up your body's natural defense system, I suppose, and the more that you are giving yourself, nourishing your body and giving it everything that it needs to function at its best. And beyond that, I just think that color is something that really brings joy to our eyeballs, and we eat with our eyes, and that's no accident either. You know, studies have shown that when people eat a variety of foods and a rainbow array of foods, it's actually, they perceive that food to be more delicious. And particularly on social media, you know, it's no accident that we double tap things that are bright and colorful. It's just our own body and brain saying, I want that. So I think that's another thing, obviously, that's resonating for people are all of the bright colors, which is why I chose an all brown, pretty much all brown dish for our demo here, Jason. Okay, how are we going? Where are we at?
Going good. I'm working my way through my wrapping.
Right. Yeah, I'd love if
ready.
Fantastic. If anyone else that's in their kitchen wants to show me one of their kataifi sticks, I'd love to see it. There we go. You can see Megan and Fiona wrapping away nicely. That's looking good. Excellent. Fabulous. All right. So back we go. I think I'm going to get frying with this. So actually, while I wait, I might even show you how to deep fry the basil leaves, because that's something that you can kind of do, I guess, in between wrapping or as you wrap. So let me grab. What you really want to make sure, though, is that the basil isn't too wet. When you deep fry, if you deep fry anything that has any water on it, it will spit. So just be really, really careful.
Well, it looks like I might have lost Alice temporarily. I will keep on wrapping while my oil is heating while we try and get her back.
Thanks for that, Jason. Yeah, I'm not too sure what's happened there.
There she is.
Still there.
There, yep. I'm back. Nick's moved the camera so that we can get closer to the deep fry, but he also bumped the plug. So deep apologies from Team AZ, but I think we're back now, so that's the main thing. Now,
deep fry apologies.
Yes. So we've got our deep frying tool here, and all you have to do, so you can hear it spitting. So step away very, very briefly, and as soon as it starts to get any sort of color on it, and you can actually, this is better done not too high at too high a temperature. So, you know, as it's getting warm enough for doing the, let's see, still needs a little bit longer. As it's getting warm enough to do the fuzzy basil cheese sticks, let's do some of this action. There we go. And when as soon as it changes color, that's when you know that it's ready to go. Beautiful.
It's like that darker green is what you're looking for?
Yeah, the darker green is what you're looking for, and it will keep cooking as well. Remember that. So that's pretty much ready to go. And then that goes into here. So that's how you deep fry herbs. Easy as that. So you know all those fancy restaurants that you go to and you get those crispy leaves of some description. This is gorgeous to do with all kinds of soft herbs, and it just gives it an extra zhuzh. You know, it appears a few times in the book in the carrot top rigatoni, where you deep fry the carrot tops. That's pretty stupendous. Same for the carrot souffle. You can do that too. So I might do a few more just to show you again if you missed it. It's a pretty complicated process. Okay, so the most complicated thing, though, I would say, is just make sure that you step away as soon as you chuck them in, because they will spit.
So you mentioned a souffle there. Yes. Looking through the book, this isn't just a savoury book either. There's sweet things in there.
Oh, absolutely. There's plenty of sweet stuff, because I actually think vegetable desserts are super underrated and are one way to turn a vegetable naysayer into a vegetable lover, because there's texture, there's colour, there's flavour, obviously. And I just think there's a dimension that vegetables bring to desserts that you don't get if you just go sweet on sweet on sweet. So my personal favourite, and one, I've got a few actually. I was going to say one, and then you can see my face change because I'm like, I don't know if I want to commit. So my current favourite is the parsnip sticky date pudding, because I made that last week, and it reminded me how much I love that dish. The beetroot chocolate brownie, which tastes like a Jaffa cake with and it looks like red velvet. That is such a hero. That is just like holy moly cannoli. The one that I would recommend for summertime is the golden bunt, which is golden patty pan squash cake, kind of like a zucchini cake. And the moistness that you get from that cake cannot be beat. That is just pun intended. Okay, so are we ready? Let's check if our dough is ready for frying. So we're just going to grab a little bit of the phyllo or the kataifi. We're just going to pop it into our oil. There we go. And I would say that that is nowhere near ready, my oil. So, don't be afraid. Wait. You don't want to put this stuff in here too soon because the cheese melts really fast. I mean, it's melty cheese. So what you want to do is you want the pastry to fry before the cheese has had a chance to ooze out. So do take your time with actually putting the things into. So how are we going? Yes.
I'm not sure mine's ready, but you said earlier something about like 15, 20 seconds for it to brown. Is that what I'm looking for?
15 to 20 seconds for it to go golden brown. So if it doesn't happen straight away, you'll see it. It starts to fizz pretty much the same way as that basil fizzed. It'll be bubbles, 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 lots and lots and lots, and suddenly it'll be golden brown. So if it doesn't happen for you, it's nowhere near ready. How are yours? Nowhere near ready. So let's, if you want, now's a great time, Jason, for you to fry some basil leaves. Give it a whirl because I'd love to see. This is what you're going for in terms of the look and feel. Look at that, glassy. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, some
very festive too. There we go. Yeah, nice. Here's some I prepared earlier. Very nice. Great. Really pretty. I might even do a few more. Why not? While we're here.
While you're doing that, I noticed in the book you describe yourself as an unapologetically lazy cook, which I can definitely identify with.
Yes.
Can you tell me about like shortcuts? And you mentioned the 5 S's. What's going on with that one?
Yes. So the laziest thing that I do is I double dip into cooking. So double dip into dishes. So if I'm making a dish, I'll always be thinking, what else can I do while I'm making this? So that the next time that I cook, it's even easier for me. So let's do some. Oof. I know, right? So do spin your salad spinner with your basil leaves would be my recommendation. You should see Nick's face right now. The other, things like having leftovers in advance. So the 5 S's are things like you can turn leftover roast veggies into salads, sandwiches, soups, stews, all sorts of S words, most importantly, snacks. So that's actually not one of the S's, but it's, I love chef snacks in the kitchen, that's for sure. But basically, I'm just looking for repurposing as much of what I cook as possible. So, okay, great. And I think that's one of the things that I try to do with the recipes as well, is I try to provide you with, if you don't have the time, you can always do this simpler in this way or whatever it is. And I think sometimes as recipe writers and food writers in general, we can get a little bit hoity-toity and a little bit trying to impress each other with our recipes. And if there's one thing that I've learned from ABC News Breakfast, it's that actual viewers and actual home cooks want things to be as simple as possible. They want ingredients that they can find at any supermarket. So, note to self who spent 2 hours today trying to find kataifi pastry, maybe don't put, thankfully I've suggested phyllo as well, but a lot of the recipes in this book I made and tested during ISO, retested during ISO, and that was when shelves were pretty bare and we couldn't get to all of those fancy places that normally foodies would find ingredients. So I'm really proud to say that a lot of this book is very accessible for someone who's just starting out, and that's really important to me. And I think that being proud to be a lazy cook is something that we can all get around. So, embrace the smugness that comes with using leftovers and with cooking things quickly and easily. So let us start our frying. I think I'm just going to give it one more test before I get ahead of myself. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Okay, so let's watch that. Great. It's almost there.
Yeah, I think I'm close, but it's not quite going brown
yet. No cigar. No cheese cigar.
But you said medium heat, so we don't want to hurry it too much.
No, we definitely don't want to hurry, because the last thing we want is to take the oil to its smoke point. So I would say actually, I'd say this is actually not too bad. Oh, no, it just was like moving so far away that I couldn't see where it was at. So, okay, we're almost there. I think we've got time for one question, Jason. So hit me with a question.
Let me see, what's a good one here? Well, I'm looking through the book, I noticed there is some little guest appearances by Small Hands, by the Nut, I believe you call your daughter.
Yes, yes, Hazel, little Hazel the Nut, yes.
Can you talk about your kind of philosophy about kids and veg and why that's important to you?
I am a teacher by trade. So my philosophy with kids and veg is the same as my philosophy with kids and learning about anything new. And that is that it sometimes will take time, and it sometimes will feel frustrating, and you'll be wondering why it's not happening sooner. But the best advice that I can give you is that the less attached you are, the faster it'll happen. And the same goes for when I was teaching. I didn't walk into the room and say to my kids, the plague, you're not going to like it, because I didn't like it at your age, but let's try it anyway. That wasn't my approach. It was, let's find a way to be enthusiastic about this together. Let's find the interesting stuff about this and discover it together. And that's my philosophy for kids and veg. And that's something that I'm really enjoying exploring with the Nut now that she's 19 months now. We shot when she was 10 months old, and she was trying everything on set. So, including the fuzzy basil cheese sticks. It's her little hand that's in there, and she grabbed that and, gave it a nosh. So, okay, I think we're ready. Let's get it in there. Oh, yeah. There we go. Beautiful. That's a good sound. I like it. Get your little skewers in there. I'd say maybe you could do, let's see. This one's a bit of a test one for me because the phyllo didn't wrap very well. So I might ex-nay on that phyllo, eh? Oh, not too bad though. I don't mind it.
How long are we leaving them in there for?
Leave them until they turn golden, which really won't take long with kataifi, maybe 2 to 3 minutes max. Max. So this phyllo is already almost at. Whew.
Yeah, it's
That's
bubbling away
pretty.
very nicely.
Yeah. Honestly, like if you don't have kataifi pastry on your family feast this festive season, I will be absolutely gobsmacked, because once you use it and see how easy it is to make something look so impressive without any effort whatsoever, and you've got such incredible seafood up north. So, if you're grabbing yourself some prawns, you can do the same thing with prawns and still have a herb in there. You might like to use a makrut lime leaf or a kaffir lime leaf in with the prawn. That would be phenomenal. Or again,
I'm surprised at how. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, go. I had absolutely nothing to say. I was just stalling while my fuzzy basil cheese went along.
The kataifi is very forgiving.
It is the most.
The kataifi is very forgiving. Like working with phyllo, sometimes it's a little bit more dubious, it would tear, but this is like I have to pull it apart. I have to actually put the effort in, where it's like, no, I'm just going to stick together and.
Yes, you just kind of give it a squish and it sticks together, and even if it tears, you can just wrap some more around it and no one will even see it. So I'm really surprised that people don't use kataifi more. If you couldn't find it, chances are you'll find it at a continental deli, or particularly an area where there are a lot of Greek migrants or people of a Greek background, because it's a very much it's used a lot, and particularly at Greek Easter time. So imagine if you've got friends of a Greek background, if you served something like this up, they would be blown away. You could use Saganaki cheese if you wanted to. You could drizzle some honey over the top as well. Oof.
Yes.
Straight away. And you'll see, that's why my recipe book, I like to describe the recipes in this book as serving suggestions more than recipes, because there's just so much else that you can do. So, I really want this to kind of be a springboard for people and inspiration for them to take it wherever they want to take it. And I want to see it as well. One of the things that I've done with this book is created an Instagram, I'm just frying this one a little bit more, created an Instagram account specifically to share the recipe Rolodex. So whatever it is that you're cooking from the book, particularly if you're making substitutions, share it on social media, tag In Praise of Veg, and I'd love to share it with everyone else and show everyone what else they can do, because, this is very much, to me, the way that we could be cooking. It's about following your intuition, about following the seasons and using what's in season and probably less expensive and tastier, and not feeling like, oh, I can't find this in the recipe, so I'm just going to have to make something else. You should never feel that way. Unless you're baking a layer cake.
That's a different story.
Exactly. But in savory cooking, there are so many different substitutions that you can incorporate and your recipe will still be fine. So let's arrange this in a beautiful fashion on some sort of platter, as you might at your family feast. Maybe you might like to arrange it so that they're one direction and the next, so that people can just reach in and grab. Obviously, you don't have to have giant skewers if you don't want to. You can have smaller skewers. Keep it simple for yourself. Finish with that little garnish of your basil, deep fried basil leaves. Look at that from a height. A little pinch of salt flakes. There we go. And truly just call it a day, because, this is what cooking should be about. It shouldn't be simple. It shouldn't be overcomplicated. It shouldn't be too kind of exclusive. Cooking is for everyone. And certainly this is a recipe that everyone is going to enjoy. So there you go. Yum.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Jason, how are yours going?
I've got a few still about to come out, but so far I've got a couple.
Pretty. They look fantastic. Yes.
I put them on a cake plate just to honor my cake preference. But
I so respect that.
I've got to say, like, for someone who's never deep fried before, this is actually really straightforward and not hard at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad that's how you feel about it, because it's kind of, I think that deep frying has had a bad rap for a long time, because people assume that if it's fried in fat like that, then it must be really junky, I suppose, for want of a better word. But that is not the case. Deep frying actually is, I'm not going to say healthier. I'm going to say it absorbs less of the fat than shallow frying, because it's so quick. So if that is of a concern for you, then, give deep frying another chance, I suppose. But it's not like, I wouldn't serve just this. There would be so many other massive, big bowls of fresh vegetables and fresh salads and all of those sorts of things. This is just the crunch, the goo, the fresh herbaceous hit of the basil. And it's just a really fun way to bring in the festive season. So why not?
Absolutely. And the texture as well, just that, like you said, that crunch.
Yeah.
And in amongst all the other fresh things is going to just be so much fun.
Exactly. And, one recommendation I can definitely make for anyone who is looking to eat more vegetables and reduce their meat consumption and finds that they are hungrier than they expected, up your fat. So add more cheese to your diet, add your saturated fats and, avocado, olive oil, butter. All of the things that make food taste better are also the things that will make you feel more satisfied when you eat them. So it's not like you're going to sit down and eat all 6 of these fuzzy basil cheese sticks yourself, but you'll eat one and you'll be like, ooh, this takes me back and I don't know where to, but I love it and I want it again. And that's the memories that I want you to create as well.
Beautiful. That's lovely. Now, just before, probably we'll throw to a couple of questions from the audience, but I wanted to ask, throughout the book, you've got quotes from other chefs, and It seems like people that you've probably either met or have been inspired by, but can you tell me about what was your thinking behind that?
When I wanted to write the book in the first place, I knew that I wanted to include the chef quotes, because it's something that I've had the privilege to be privy to throughout my time in the food media. I get asked to host some incredible chefs on stage and on screen, and in that time I always kick myself that I don't get to share it with more people. And so I knew that for some people the recipes would be their entry point, for others it would be the reference pages, and for others still, particularly other chefs and other foodies, seeing those names in this book and seeing what it is that they have to say about a vegetable that we might not necessarily like is a really good way of breaking down some of those barriers and kind of peer pressuring people into trying new things as well.
Which is never a bad thing.
Never a bad thing, no. And I think the thing that's really cool to me is that those chefs that are in this book are heroes of mine. There are some huge names from Australia and abroad. And the thing that really blew me away is that when I contacted them, they were so enthusiastic about the project and they were so keen to include their thoughts in it. And I think that kind of reinforces the fact that there are more people that love vegetables than you may think.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I've got all mine fried. One or two did ooze, so I might have left them in a little bit long, but
that's fine. You know, if they ooze a little bit, show me the ooze factor. I think the ooze is just character. Don't even worry about it. Life goes on.
That's what I'm going to say, definitely.
Yeah.
Claim that.
Claim it. But the colour's perfect. It looks just gorgeous. And, you know, I just think as far as festive colours as well, you know, you might like to, let's think, you could put a relish with this, particularly like a cranberry relish if you wanted to get a bit festive. And then that would be a little bit kind of, the basil leaves are a bit holly. The cranberry you could dot around to make it look like little holly berries. Look out.
One last question for you, and then I think we can probably hand over to the other guys. I'm always curious whenever I talk to a foodie or a chef or someone who loves food, is there any dish or even an individual ingredient that you wish you could try again for the first time?
There's one food memory that is the strongest to me that I go back to, and actually thinking about this dish, there are a lot of correlations. I had a Brie Savarin truffled cheese, triple cream brie in Dalesford at the lake house. And it was with Earl Grey soaked raisins and a piece of brioche. And there was a honey that went with it as well. Jason, I wept when I ate this dish. It was so unexpectedly delicious. Even thinking about it now, it just brings up so many beautiful, beautiful memories. And the funniest thing is that we were staying there. And so the next morning, knowing that that's how I felt about it, they brought me more for breakfast. And then just to, you know, add just compound, they brought me more over lunch. And by the time that I'd had the last bite of the one at lunch, it had acclimatized within my body, and I'd kind of started taking it for granted. So you're right, asking that question. I want that first taste. I want that first surprise and delight and tears pricking at my eyes, because, gosh, isn't that what food's all about? You know, it makes you feel alive.
That sounds amazing. I was really, salivating just listening to you. Well, thank you so much for cooking with me. Like that was a lot of fun. And I think
thank you for cooking with me.
Oh, my pleasure. And I think they might still be a bit hot, but maybe once we're done, I'll definitely be tucking into these.
Great, good. And if you cooked along, please do tag me, Alice in Frames and In Praise of Veg, because I'd love to share your handiwork and show people how easy it is to cook the recipes from this dish. This one in particular is just like the bang for buck that you get. The return on investment, especially from guests, is just all time. It's too good.
Absolutely. Bianca, did we have any audience questions that you wanted to quickly fire off?
Yeah, we had a one question come through from Megan, and so thank you so much for those of you who are cooking along with us. It's been fantastic just to see the participation, and definitely the most interactive event I've been part of. So Megan would just like to ask if there's a sweet version of this recipe for Christmas.
Megan, good question. You could do, those flavors that I talked about with that truffled brioche, you could do that for Christmas. So you could do a sweet version. You could often they do cheese with sweet. So drizzle honey over that katayifi pastry, some fresh lemon zest as well. That would be so yummy. Or even you could pop, a few cheeks of lemon around it as well, just to, brighten it up even more. What else could you pop in there? You could do a ricotta in the middle as well with katayifi pastry around. Just note that it just will need to be at slightly hotter temperature for doing ricotta, because it's that cheese will ooze even more. So you want that katayifi pastry to golden up as quickly as possible, and pull it out just before you think you should, and that the residual heat will keep it cooking. But you could totally do it with saganaki cheese or halloumi. Halloumi, katayifi and honey. that's the sweet that I would do. Scrumptious. And do some, Earl Grey soaked raisins if you want to get bougie.
I'm almost seeing some nice flaked almonds or something on there as well with the honey.
Love that. Yes, toast some flaked almonds and sprinkle those on top as well. Get creative. Bit of, dried fruit, toasted nuts. Yum.
Fantastic. And there was a comment earlier from Annika who just said she's had your book from its very release date and said it is just simply amazing, capital letters, exclamation marks. So
thank you. Thank you so much. Honestly, I'm absolutely thrilled and delighted by the response from people who have got the book and who are cooking from the book. So please let me know what you want to see next from me, because I am in the throes of planning my next book. So if there's something in particular that you loved about this one, if you have any advice for me, if you want me to give you advice, slide into my DMs and tell me what you want me to write next, because let's crowdsource it.
Incredible. Thank you so much, Alice. Now, very good. So Jason's just confirming for anyone who lives in Brisbane and is looking for that that type of pastry you're cooking with.
Tofu pastry.
That one. So you're saying it's a deli on Duncan Street in West End.
And I just was handed the receipt, so it's called Mega Continental.
Mega Continental. Thank you, Mega Continental, for stocking Kataifi pastry. Please keep doing it. Please support them, because the delis that I went to said, oh yeah, we used to stock it, but no one bought it. So, and I said, look out, it's coming back.
They're pushing back the crowds.
That's right.
Wanting their
Exactly.
fuzzy basil sticks.
It's all about it.
And just quickly as well, could I ask, Alice, in the book, is there indications of, anyone who might have a dietary requirement, say gluten-free or something like that? That's all.
This book is very gluten-free friendly. My husband is very gluten intolerant, so I just tend to naturally cook gluten-free anyway. If you wanted to do this with gluten-free, you could probably do it with rice crumbs or quinoa flakes, or you could even do it with shredded coconut. Give that a whirl as well, but you'll need to egg wash it in order for it to actually stick to the cheese. That's the thing that you get with the kataifi, is that it sticks. So I just think that the way that gluten-free products are now, and particularly gluten-free flour, I use it more than I do regular flour. It's just light and it's easy and it's very neutral in flavour.
We just have to work on the pizza bases.
Oh, there are some pizza bases coming out. If you want to know, are you Bianca? Is this for personal question of your own? Okay, so gluten freedom. There's a great SPQR here in Victoria, which I'm sure will start to export. They do it's called From Scratch pizza base. That's really great. Toscano's is another brand that you'll find at the shops. That's a really good pizza base. So yeah, see that you've vetted me now. I know where it's at. And honestly, I really wanted to make this book as friendly to dietaries and substitutions as possible. And I've tried to include them as much as possible, to the point where when it came to indexing and I said, can you please color code, they were like, Alice, that's like the whole book. So and if there is something where you find a recipe and you think, oh, I wish that I could make this, but I can't figure it out, that's what I'm here for. So reach out and say to me, I can't find this, or I can't use this, and I'll find you something else. We'll crowdsource it together.
Fabulous. It does look very user-friendly, and I certainly want a few copies around for my family in the kitchen and whatnot. So just throwing back to the both of you, if you had any we haven't had any other questions in the meantime, so if you want to have any final comments before we throw it open to the audience to send you out with a big, warm, Avid round of applause.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take this opportunity to thank the whole Avid team for including me in their Christmas events and for inviting me to do this little cook along. And Jason, thank you for cooking with me. It's just been such a pleasure to have someone to bounce off and to see someone actually cooking with kataifi pastry. You're my point guard on this cook along. So thank you for that. And thank you to all of you that are supporting the book and that are thinking about grabbing it for Christmas. I've got to tell you, exclusive live telling of the bookshops that I visited today in Victoria, whatever they have on the floor is all the books that they'll have until Feb, because the book is selling unprecedentedly well. So if you are thinking about buying it, do take advantage of that 10% off. Do grab it, and that way I don't have to get a disappointed message from you in a week and a half's time when you want to grab it for Christmas time. But I really, again, can't thank you enough for the support. And I am so excited to see the book start to look like mine, which is like starting to get passata splatters and total mess. So, that's when the book is well loved. And I love that, even my own recipes, I still need to pull out the book to figure out what to put in them.
Wonderful. And thank you, Alice, we can just see your passion, your zest for life coming through in those, like you said, our eyeballs love bright colors, and
all about it.
It's certainly been a wonderful, we've just got so many, a few comments coming through just saying, thank you so much, Alice. Book looks great. And I might open it up. Jason, any final comments or?
No, I'm quite happy. It was lovely to cook with you, Alice. Thank you very much. My pleasure to join in.
All righty. Everyone should be able to unmute themselves now. So I'm just going to double check that's ticked. So if you can, there we go. We're going to send you off with a big clap.
Yay. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Bianca. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Brisbane. Thank you, Queensland. I really appreciate your support.
That's our pleasure, Alice. All right. Have a great night and take care. Merry Christmas.
Take care and Merry Christmas to you all. Bye.